Alright, hey guys, it's Pepper here. I wasn't feeling like making a video today. I wasn't even sure I was gonna make one. Really wasn't feeling like doing anything. But I decided, like, I'm gonna get out of bed, just kind of straighten up a little, clean my room, not to sound like Jordan Peterson. I started cleaning and just kind of like fixing up the house, and I was like, okay, I'll just do some little stuff. After a little while, that created a cascading effect where, like, I made the bed, and then I cleaned the room, and I cleaned the hallway and did the dishes, and etc., etc., and before I know it, the whole house is clean. And then, now that the whole house is clean, I'm in a great mood, and I want to make a video. And I figured that's a great topic to bring up, is the cascading effect doing one positive thing can have on the whole day, or on a bigger scale, your entire life. So I'm going to tell a story about when I was younger. Back in school, like elementary school through high school, I just could not talk. The only time I spoke was pretty much to answer a teacher asking me a question, and even then sometimes I just look at them blankly, and especially if another student asked me a question, like somebody who wasn't an authority figure and I didn't feel like I had to answer, I would just kind of stare at them blankly, and they probably just thought I was stupid. But it was this like weird fear that I just did not understand, where like I knew what to say, or at least in my head I had these thoughts of like, oh, this would be funny to say back, or like this would be, friendly or whatever. Like I knew what to say, but I always had this thing like holding me back to where it made it feel like I physically could not get the words out, because I think like, what if they laugh at me, or what if they think I'm stupid or whatever. And it's it's odd because if I had just said anything, I probably would have fared better in school than I did by just acting like a mute. Like, kids have told me later, literally, that they thought I was mute. They thought I couldn't talk. There was, like, I had groups of friends throughout elementary and middle school. I would sit with, like, the Yu-Gi-Oh! And the Pokemon player types at lunch, and I kind of talked to them, and I had, like, a friend or two in high school. I only went to high school for half of my ninth grade year, but during that time, I did make a few friends. But I could never fully be myself around them, and it's amazing that I even got to the point where I talked to them at all. Anyway, going back a little bit, back when I was in fourth grade, I started having these almost panic attacks. There was this one teacher I didn't like, and if you didn't show up with a red pen to like correct your work, she would freak out. And I was never prepared, but the way she like went about it was really rude. Anyway, every day before I went to her class, I would get these feelings like rise up in my chest. I didn't know what they were, but it was just these horrible feelings. I'd feel like I was gonna gag, or like I was gonna throw up. And I had these feelings like off and on anytime something would make me nervous throughout middle school. Sometimes I would throw up. I'd throw up before school, or I'd just get really gaggy or sick or whatever. My stomach would hurt, and I'd feel that feeling in my chest rise up. But it wasn't until I was in my 8th grade year. I had moved around a bunch. I went from living with my mom to my dad, with my grandparents for a little while. I was on like my 5th school. I kept switching schools because of like all this moving and stuff like that. And in the middle of my 8th grade math class at this like brand new school that I was going to, I had this massive panic attack. And if you haven't ever had a panic attack, it manifests itself differently for everybody. But for me, it felt like what I thought a heart attack would feel like. Like I was in school and I was freaking out, and I started like, I remember I was thinking about like some nostalgic memory, like being a little kid and like my parents being together, and because they were split at that point. And I guess I was just thinking of like happier times, right? And I had this massive panic attack, and I got up and I took my hoodie off and I threw it to the ground, and they had some jock walk me down to the nurse, which did not help. Like, that's the last thing you want. You want to go alone. It's just embarrassing, right? But after that, I found out it was a panic attack, and you get on the SSRIs and all that stuff. But anyway, next year was ninth grade, and I go to a new high school, and it just didn't last, right? So the anxiety and everything else and my inability to socialize, I just kind of fell through the cracks, and I quit going to school. Went to court a bunch of times for it, just never went back. I don't know, like I was never sent to juvie. I think they just kind of gave up. I don't know. So at this point, I'm getting to be like 15, 16 years old, and I'm not in school, and I'm bouncing around house to house a little bit, and everything's just kind of aimless. And the main thing I have going for me is, well, one, I play a lot of Halo online on Xbox Live, and two, when I was about 12 or 13, I started learning guitar and writing songs and singing. And at 15 or 16, a lot of people have this dream that like they're going to be this famous rock star. And I started getting introduced to certain types of music. Like some of my favorite bands at the time were Bright Eyes, Neutral Milk Hotel, like that indie type of emo music. And this guy who was a senior when I was a freshman in high school, and he was in my music class, invites me to a show when I'm like 16. He's playing a show at like a local coffee shop, and I mean, he invited a bunch of people, but I think he sent me a message or something, said like I should come out to his show. So me being totally awkward, having no friends, I went to the show with my mom, and afterwards I talked to him, and I muster up the courage to tell him and some of the other people there, like, oh, that was cool, like I really liked it. And he invited me over to his house the next day to play some music and write some songs or whatever. At the time, I remember I had like no friends. Like literally, I was so nervous. I was completely isolated in home, in my house all the time. And my mom was like, "Are you sure they're not like fucking with you? Like, are you sure they're not?" Like, it's kind of like a mean thing to say, but I get the concern because it's like I've never been invited anywhere really. So, and these older guys, these older musician guys are inviting me over. So she's like, "Okay, is this even safe? Are they like fucking with you?" But they weren't fucking with me. And I went over there and the next morning and we played some songs and wrote some stuff and just sang, and it was really cool because these are like older guys who were playing music in a local scene, and I thought it was really cool that these people I looked up to doing this stuff I wanted to do invited me over and treated me as their equal when I was so scared I could hardly talk to anybody. Shortly after that, we started a band, and I was so nervous to play in front of people, but these guys helped my confidence. And through that person who invited me over to play initially, I met some more people and some of my friends that I still play games with today and hang out with today and occasionally play music with today. And I played a lot of shows too. For like 2 years, we pretty much all lived together. Like we lived at each other's houses. And that was probably from like age 16 to 18 or 19. I mean, I spent so much time with these guys. They're like my brothers. I really like learned a lot about life. Like I learned how to talk to people to some degree. I still struggle, but going from like basically being mute when I first started talking to these guys, like when I went to their house, I was afraid to ask to use the bathroom. Like that's how like awkward I was, like socially stunted. And by the end of this, I had learned to talk to girls and play shows in front of people and interact with all these people and make friends and all this stuff. It was just like a huge formative part of my life. There are things that I still struggle with today, and after that time of my life, I had a long period in my life where I pretty much just stayed home and did nothing. Like I was a complete shut-in again. And these things kind of go in waves and they come in phases for me. But I don't think I ever got as bad as I was when I was in school. Like, I don't think I ever got as bad socially or was as much of a shut-in later in life as I was then. Point being, these struggles, a lot of them never left, but I owe it to these people reaching out to me in the first place and just sort of taking a chance and, on me as a friend and hanging out with me to, like, my life changing for the better. I don't know where I would be right now if these people had never reached out to me and I had never made friends with them. I would probably have had like no social interaction still and be a lot weirder than I already am. Anyway, all this to say, just try to make people feel welcome and try to be kind. And if you see somebody who's, a bit of an outcast, make an effort to include them. I mean, you don't have to like alter your entire life, but all that guy did was invite me to a show. I mean, he didn't twist my arm or force me out. Obviously, like some of it's on the shy person. Some of it was on me to show up at that show, and I did. But him reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, I'd like to have you here," that was a small thing he did that altered the entire course of my life. And that's all it takes sometimes. Like, that's all some people need. So be nice, be kind, and clean your room and make your bed. And yeah, that's it. See ya.